Hello everyone, this is Lou. Thank you for joining us at Ascension 2021. We are here with Mr. Kenji Kohashi, who is a former actor, film director, creative director, event producer, and the Human Miracle CEO as a guest. To hear about a challenger's mindset amidst COVID-19, welcome Mr. Kohashi, welcome Takashima Mayor.
Thank you for the warm welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Mr. Kohashi, firstly, please introduce your bio and business.
Yes, as introduced, I have been working as an actor from the age of 8 to 27. When I was 27, I started to think about my future, what kind of person I wanted to be in my 30s. So I decided to stop working and go over to the United States to study abroad. I took a spring vacation, and in Miami, I got to meet Ultra Music Festival. And this is where I got to experience and see the event. And I've been traveling around the world, attending events ever since. I first started my event career by creating and organizing my own birthday event. Then I've been producing events ever since. I've made and produced events such as Ultra Japan, a music festival, and in Japan it was one of the biggest music festivals from abroad. I've also produced Star Island, a 3D technology show performance, using a show performance and stories to create and promote the event. I've done that in Japan and Singapore for New Year's Eve countdowns, and also in Saudi Arabia. I've also worked on, in 2019, Tokyo Motor Show, an event called Contact, using 500 drones, using LED and drones. Looking back, I've also produced films and documentary movies as well. Recently, I've been a part of the Paralympic closing event, and I did the show director. Also, I run an event company, so I help companies PR, production, and help with events and making PRs and production for companies. Thank you.
What are your thoughts, Mayor?
His ideas are amazing. His ideas and challenges are so broad and very global mindset as well. He's very good with connecting Japan and the global market. So today's event's theme is Ascension, and that is exactly what it is. I've been to events he produced, such as Ultra and Star Island. And as Fukuoka City, we are working hard on startup businesses. So we've looked at a lot of new technologies from overseas as well. But using that technologies for entertainment is very fascinating. Usual firework events is always looking up in the sky, watching the fireworks. But for Star Island, you are dancing, looking up the sky, but also drones in between, and also having accessories like IoT wristbands, and having all those interactions, and using the whole environment as a screen. The ideas are so fresh and wonderful. So what is your mindset
Yes, as discussed, I stopped working as an actor at the age of 27, started traveling around the world. And when I traveled the world, for me, I've been making excuses saying that I'm an actor, so I don't have the time, and making these environments my excuses and not finding my future for myself. So when I stopped acting and stepped out into the world, I got my emotional rehabilitation. I was able to see the sunset and cry, see the starlights and be touched. And in Japan, I didn't have that environment. So when I stepped out of Japan in the global environment, I was able to feel that. I came back to Japan and felt this sense of uncomfortableness. I was able to realize this uncomfortableness thanks to the experiences that I've had outside of Japan. And it made me realize that by attending these events and feeling these little things, I felt that these little things are what's important. And coming back to Japan, I felt this uncomfortableness. I started to wonder why in the global world people are able to make these events, but in Japan we can't. And I started to wonder, why can't we do this in Japan? And if we want to do this in Japan, what can I do? And so I started to think, how do I express this emotion in Japan by making events? And if we take an example, looking back, it would be a new type of entertainment. And as Mr. When I make events and produce events, I like to take these three key points into consideration. It's encounter, knowledge, and uncomfortableness. For example, by encounter, at Ultra, I was able to meet a firework master. And these firework masters are very, very traditional. And when they were able to see these young audiences being touched by fireworks, I was able to make that connection for them, that encounter. And I feel like I made a future for them in that event, through that event. So looking at the world right now, I have these questions come up in my mind. Why can't we do this? Why is this? And in Japan at that time, I've been feeling this uncomfortableness, which was to save tradition. And I felt that Japanese people have been If we take fireworks as an example, at first, fireworks, when it came into Japan, the people who brought it put so much power into creating and innovating that it touched people. The people that experienced it really, really felt touched and were fascinated. And I feel like this is the reason why fireworks became a tradition. So, in conclusion, I feel like we really need to make fans in order to make a tradition. And I feel like in order to make tradition and save tradition, we can't be forcing it on them.
であればやっぱ当時と同じような熱量でクリエーションして、で、その時代の才能とテクノロジーを掛け合わせる。
And it's important to collaborate the technology and the knowledge of that time. And what I had as knowledge back then was that I met a sound designer, and I also had the experience in team. And by collaborating those three together, I was able to make one big event. Also, something else that I felt is that I've been seeing news that fireworks were being canceled. So I asked the firework masters why, and they said that they needed to make everything a paid event. And I felt this need to change and update the tradition. Traditionally, fireworks are a free event, but as it became more popular with SNS, more people were coming to the events, and securities were needed, and the place was packed. So, to update the event, we needed to divide these areas and make a paid event.
いろんな警備を立てなきゃいけないと。であれば、その有料で区分けをしつつ、そのエリアだけの人たちがお金を払って楽しめるっていうしなきゃいけないんです。そうじゃないと我々生き残れないんですって言ってて、まあそれに対しても、いや、であれば、
I felt that if so,
すべくアップデートしなきゃいけない。
the importance to update the tradition hit me. And I felt that it's very important to take tradition and update it to solve problems in everyday life. So I took these 3 key points: encounter, knowledge, uncomfortableness, and made it one event, which was Star Island. And sorry, I've been talking for such a long time, but this is my answer.
So listening to you, it seems like you're very sensitive to this uncomfortableness. And this comes from you going to overseas and open up your mind and accepting yourself to be aware of this uncomfortableness. So you can go overseas and come back and see all this uncomfortableness of Japan. So when you do go overseas, it's not just about learning about the world, but you can also realize more about Japan. So you can realize the good and the bad and the uniqueness of Japan. So listening to you, it seems like you have this fishing hook in your mind, catching all those ideas. So having that ability to catch ideas is very important.
Well, because I've seen both sides of the world, Japan and outside of Japan, I feel like I have both perspectives. And I also feel that Japan has so much potential and so much more that Japan can do. But living and being in Japan, you don't really realize those potentials or little things. So I feel like there's so many good things in Japan that can be discovered or delivered. But I feel like it's really important to realize that gap between Japan and the world. But Star Island, if we ask if it's completely global, it's not. Of course, we use traditional fireworks, hanabi, but it also has lots of aspects of Japan in the 90-minute story. We start off with this sort of ritual, and that actually comes from Izumo Taisha, Izumo Grand Shrine's tradition of welcoming the gods. 稲佐の浜に神様をお迎えして神有月になっていくんですけど、I've actually recently attended one of the ceremonies, and I really like to take inspirations from these traditional ceremonies and events, and taking them into my events and producing my events. And besides these aspects, if we look at music, lights, lasers, drones, they come from my global knowledge or experiences. And I feel like Japanese people are really good at taking inspirations from outside traditions, cultures, and harmonizing it into our own. And this is what I try to take in.
So when I think about Japanese animation, they are very good with putting Japanese tradition into the episodes. And as a global fan, that connects to reassessment of Japanese culture. Also, you were talking about domestic demands. When it comes to Japan, we have a big business market. So, example, if we compare ourselves to Korea, which has a smaller market, they were ready to have a bigger global market in a very early age. So they made it very important to have English education for contents and global businesses. Japanese population is shrinking, so our market is shrinking as well. So we have to change our minds to improve and ascend as a country and focus more on global business markets.
I really feel the same way about that. I feel like we need to level up Japanese entertainment to the global standard. I really want people to come to Japan for its entertainment and not just Japanese tradition. And I also don't want to rely on Japanese culture. And it's really important to tell and keep the Japanese culture, but relying on it too much is dangerous.
あまりにも言ったら古めかしきものが喜ばれるだろうと思って、どうしてもそういうものを伝統っぽいものをどうしても押し出しすぎちゃうんですけど。
For example, if we take the Billboard rankings, there are artists from various countries like Spain, China in the rankings. There's nothing weird about it. And they're not making that because of tradition. We think, oh, is it an American song? But it's actually from BTS, a Korean band. So I think it's really important for Japanese artists and entertainment to catch up to the global standard. And I feel like we push and rely too much on tradition. So if we look back, like I said, Japanese people like ramen, kanji, Italian, also curry. We're really good at taking international standards and adding our own twist. Cars too, we take international standards and adding our own twist, we make our own Japanese brands.
それって結局もともと海外にあったような文化を、日本の人が取り入れて世界に行ったら世界1位になっちゃうみたいな。そこを僕は
I feel like for entertainment, I think that's really important. So we really need to take in the international standards and make a global entertainment.
I see. When it comes to entertainment, let's talk about the closing ceremony of Paralympics. All eyes were on you. Everyone had high expectations of having the image of Japan. What kind of message Japan will send through this entertainment stage ceremony? So you can't force old traditional Japan into entertainment. So it must have been very hard to come up with that balance. What were the struggles of the production of the ceremony?
With the limited amount of time and restrictions, and everyone all around the world will be watching the ceremony. So having to create that ceremony, taking on traditions from the past. So I, of course, wanted to take in Japanese tradition, but I also thought that the most important thing was not technology, but to focus on human beings and focusing on people and showing how everyone all over the world can be special. And instead of performing a futuristic performance in the ceremony, I decided to highlight that the world itself is beautiful already. And I wanted people to be inspired to be looking at the world from a very different perspective and realizing that the world already is beautiful on its own. So I really wanted to focus and express that the world right now already has various scenery, various colors, various seasons. And it was my goal to make people realize that the earth is so beautiful. That's why I didn't really focus on Japan, but focused on the world itself. And I wanted people to change their perspective looking into their everyday lives. And this is what I told my team and myself as the main goal.
There must have been a lot of pressure. Was it hard?
Oh, yes. There was pressure, knowing that so many people were going to be watching. But the event itself and the ceremony itself, it wasn't my event. It was everyone's event and everyone's ceremony. So at first, when I got the offer to help with the event and the ceremony, I made up my mind that I will accept and appreciate all of the process of making up the ceremony. So of course, in the middle, there were so many struggles and it was very hard and stressful. But even those experiences really helped the ceremony, and it also motivated everyone. And thanks to everyone's hard work, it paid off. And at the end, it was a success. I really got so many power from everyone. We became one. And actually, the weather forecast said that it was going to be 80% rain, but it actually didn't rain and it was sunny the day.
すいません、本当に素晴らしい閉会式で大変盛り上がっているんですけれども、お時間が来ましたので次の話題に。The Paralympic closing ceremony was great and such a success. But let's move on into the next topic. As an event producer, drastic changes have been expected amidst COVID-19. But how did you overcome this?
Yes, well, 2020 and also 2021. For me, from an event company perspective, I have to say that everything was canceled. All events were canceled in the past few years. So I don't know if this is a good message coming from a CEO, but I've actually decided to accept everything and living life. We all have our ups and downs. So I decided to look at the bigger picture and the brighter future for us. So looking at the big picture, even though we lost a lot of things, and we struggled a lot in the past few years, I feel like I was able to change my mind and not be hurt by the pandemic. And I tried to change perspective and look on the brighter side of the future and look for new discoveries and new findings. So I decided to experiment and use those few years. So instead of trying to get something back from the past, I was actually able to realize a lot of things because I lost a lot of things in the past few years. So I decided to change my mind and look into the. So, for example, if we take the Paralympics, if I had been too busy with other events, I probably wouldn't have been able to help with the event. And also, usually, I am traveling all around the world. Mostly half of the year I'm gone out of Japan. But because I had that time, I was able to go all over Japan and discover new things. I got to discover its potential, scenery, people, technology, and it hit me that Japan is really a beauty. And I actually felt it a shame that I hadn't known earlier. I've actually been doing new projects now that I had the chance to work with, which are regional revitalization projects and also city development projects. So with COVID, I got the chance to look and observe and start new projects. I actually got more time in my hands. So instead of being busy with events, I actually got to wait for the next wave of opportunities. So I feel like people tend to blame bad things on the environment or other people and take things very negatively. But I've actually come to the conclusion that we really need to accept and be thankful for both good and bad things, all of the ups and downs. And I feel like this is all thanks to COVID. So I've been very positive about it.
So I think it was really hard for a lot of people mentally to look things in perspective. Is very important. And you were talking about materialistic world. Recently, I heard something about mentality. It's not about having strong or weak mentality. It's about having control. And I really agree with that. So you don't have to have a strong mentality and accept every criticism. It's about stress relief. And for you, I think it's really amazing that you came to this point. For a lot of people, it was financially very hard.
Yes, we were hit very hard as well. And when I say this, trust me, I am telling the truth. We were financially hit, and even now we're not better. But I've actually come to terms with myself and my surroundings. And I've decided that I really need to accept all of the good and bad. So I've actually stopped to realize both bad and good. And I've come to terms to accept everything. And there is a saying that everything you see is a mirror of yourself. But I feel like I've actually mentally prepared and cared for my mental health. And look at myself and care for my mental health this few years.
I see.
今ちなみにコロナほら、わかんないですよ、これからどうなるか
So
わ
we
かん
don't
ない
know
け
about
ど、
the
ちょ
future,
っと
but
こう、
COVID-19
いけるか
situation
なみたいな雰囲気
is
がちょっ
slowly
とあるじゃないですか、
improving.
現時点。この収録時点では。
ありますね。はい。
であるんですが、こっから何か
So
これ
having
まで
all
の
your
コロナの経
experience
験を
under
経
your
て、
belt,
これまでと違う何かこう新しいチャレ
what
ン
is
ジ
your
見
new
えてきたことっていう
challenge?
のを
What
やり
is
たい
your
こと
next
ってあるん
step?
ですか？
そうですね。
Well, yes,
僕はそのエンターテインメン
entertainment
ト、イベントに関
wise,
しては、実はコロナ
with
前から自分の中
events and
で、
festivals,
思うところ
I've
があっ
actually
て、
been thinking
もと
before
もとやっぱり
COVID.
イベントとか
I
お祭
feel
りっ
like
ていうの
all
は、
events,
先に逆に何
traditional
か目
events
的があ
had
る。例えば
goals.
日本のお祭りだ
For
ったら皆
example,
さんどこを
Japanese
祈るか
traditional
のため
events
に、そこの目的
held
があって
festivals
祭
for
りをす
rice
るっていう。
farming.
僕自身もその最初イベントを
Well,
始めたの
looking
は、その
back
誕
at
生
my
日という
first
自分の
event,
場を人
I
様におも
produced
てな
my
しした
own
い。い
birthday
つもお世話
event,
になってる
but
人のおもてなししたいって
this
思い
was
か
to
ら、
celebrate
誕
it with
生
other
日という場を
people
使っ
and
て、
connect
結果お
other
祭りに
people
したってい
and
う
thank
部
other
分があったんです
people
けど、
for everything
何
that
かこ
they've
うイベン
done
ト
for
が目的
me.
になってきた
So
ときに、その
I
本
really
当の
feel
目的
that
を忘れてき
for
たんじゃないかなって
events,
いう
we
自
really
分でも
need
ちょっと違
to
和感を感じ
focus
てま
on
して、
its main
なるほど。
goal. And it's really
コロナ
important
禍
to
になっ
remember
て、
that all events need a
や
goal.
っぱりそういうことかって自分で思った
So
ときに、
when
やっぱ
I
僕自身
realized
がこれか
that
らイベントをやっ
in
てい
the
く上で、
future, when I
やっぱり
produce
こう、
events,
先に
I
目的とい
really
う
think it's
か、
important for
何か
me
思いがあっ
to
て、その
trigger
上でやっぱりイベン
awareness
トを
for
作っていきたい
people
っていうことで言うと、なんか
and
イベ
let
ントを
people
主にしてい
know
くっていうよりは、
the
やっぱ
real
僕
meaning
が
of their
本質的にやり
lives
たいことっていうのは、人々に気づきのきっかけを作りたい。つまり
and
本当の自分に立ち返る、本当の自分の人生を歩めるような。もっと究極言うと、すべてのものとつ
I
ながってい
really
るっ
want
ていう
people
実
to
感
know that they are
を
connected
人
to
々に味わっ
everything,
てほしい、気づいてほしい
nature,
っていうの
people.
は、もう大前提に僕はあるんです。
So this is
な
what
の
I
で、そう
put
いう意味
as
で言う
my
と別
goal
にイベ
for
ントに
all
とら
my
われてる
future
わけじゃなく
events.
て、
And
その
this
きっか
doesn't
けの
have to
場を
be
作りたい。
just events, it
それ
can
は
be
もしかしたら一つ
developing
街づくり。
cities.
あの
So I
自
really
分
want
自
to
身
use my
が世界を巡って
experience
培っ
that
てきた
I
感覚
experience
を今日
overseas
本に足りない場所
and my
とか、あとはも
experience
しか
when
した
I
らその
know
ちょっ
what's
と
missing in
うまくいってな
Japan.
いようなとこ
And
ろ
I
とか
really want
に
to use
自
that
分の経験値を生
knowledge
かしてそこに気づ
to
きを作る。
enlighten and
やっぱ
fill
人
in
が
the
集まるっ
gaps.
ていう場所っていうのは決して別にイベントだけではなくて、日常的にある街かもしれない。もしろね、高島市長
And
のまさにです
Takashima
けど、
Mayor, you
街づくりじゃな
developed
い
the
ですか。
city of
そうそうそう。
Fukuoka. So my
なので
project
やっぱり
isn't
そう
as
いう僕はやっ
massive
ぱり
as yours,
ここはね、
but
高島市長みたいに全体の街を作るっていうことでは
I
ないんです
really
けども、
feel
一つのきっか
that
け、
connection and that
一
need
つの
to
こ
make a
う
trigger for
一
people
つの場所を作ると周りの人たち
and
が
let
それ
them
に共感
realize
して、
and
周りがこう自
for
発的
people
に
to
集ま
be
って作るような、
connected
そんなきっかけの
and
さっき
happy.
からさ、
So what are you
街づく
saying?
りって言われるとちょっと
When
や
you're
っぱり
talking
何
about
すんのっ
city
て聞きた
developments,
くな
I
るんです
really
け
want to
ど、
know your opinion.
なんだろう、
What
ど
are
ん
you
な
gonna
こと
do?
いや、
でも、
Well,
言え
I
ないこ
have
と
a
も
few projects that I can't really talk about.
これからでもあれですよね、なんか小橋さんってほら、そうだから、
So what I think
俳優
about
した
you
り、
is that
で、
you're an
イベント
actor,
やったり、で、クリエ
you're
イ
an
ティブ
event organizer,
で、そ
you're
の、
very
作る。
creative, and you're also
これ
talking
から
about
って結
city
構やっぱりジャ
development.
ンルを超えられ
So
る
I
と、
think it's
そ
important
のジャンル
for
のジャ
people
ンル
like
付け合わ
you
せとか、
to cross over
こういう人っ
genres
てやっぱりこれや
and
ったらす
connect
ごいやっ
them
ぱりみんなのいろんなこう気づきの
and
目を
give
開かせてく
fresh
れ
new
る
ideas
存
from
在
your point
と
of
して、や
view.
っぱりすごく皆さんいいですよね。
I
小橋さん
think
なんてま
that's
さにそう
great,
です
and
よ。
you
ジャン
are
ルを超えて
exactly
関
that
係なく
person
と
who
らわ
can
れて
do
ないですよ
so.
ね。
これ
Well,
ネタ
it's
じゃないんで
funny
すけど、
because
僕の
my
名字
name
が
is
小橋って言いますの
Kohashi,
で、
which means
ジ
small
ャンルを
bridge in
超えた小さい
Japanese.
架け橋を作ら
So
せてい
I
ただき
actually
たいと
really
思いま
want
す
to
けど、
cross over genres and
よ
connect
くアナウン
people.
サー試験でなんかね、
Wow. You sound like you're
ほら、
auditioning for a news
島
encore.
みたいな。そうです。
Yes,
や
I
りたい
want
と
to
思いま
build
す。
small bridges.
なるほど
I
ね。
see.
なんで僕は両
Well,
親は
yes, so
福
my
島
parents
県
are
出身
from
で、母は
Fukushima,
生まれは
but I
東
was
京な
born
ん
in
ですけど、
Tokyo.
ええ、
本当の自分の田舎っていう
So
の
my
はあんまり
hometown,
なくて、
I don't really have have one. So I've been all over the world and I've been getting inspiration from everywhere. So hopefully, sometime soon you can invite me to Fukuoka City.
You're more than welcome. We'll be waiting. Thank you so much.
ちょっと、
さて、
え
よろしいでしょうか。ワクワクするお話が続いておりますが、
We have a really interesting conversation going on, but now we are running out of time. Mayor, Mr. Kohashi's company's name is The Human Miracle. What do you think about that?
確かになんていうのかな、こう、ミラクルってね、まあ、奇跡って直訳すればそうなるかもしれないけど、奇跡とか偶然とかってあるけど、なんだろう、こう、 こうやってオンライン
It comes to
も
my
ちろんできる
mind
ように
that
なる良
online
さ
events like these are
っていう
great,
ところもあるし、一方で、ほら、このコロナの期間
but
中
during this
で、
COVID-19 times,
オンラインのもちろん良さは、もちろんそれはそれでわかるんだけども、
it's
一
important
方で
to
その
know
リアルっ
the
て何の意味があったんだ
good
ろう
parts of
リアルの
online
本当の価
events,
値っ
but
て
I
何
wonder
なん
the
だろう
worth of reality.
それこそやっぱりこう、なんていうのかな、ここで決められた範囲内の話じゃなくて、
Not just
解
the
像度が
topics
圧
we
倒的に
touched today,
上がるので、
I
リアルの
think
解像度の高さはやっぱり
the
絶対バーチャル
clarity
では
of
出ない。
reality
出ない。
you
ね、
cannot beat
まあ
with
上回れないの
virtuality.
で、そうすると、多分こう横に、真横に私たちがいて
So
話して
if
たら、
today we
ま
were
た今の
sitting
流れと
next to
違
each
う部
other,
分 の
maybe we would
話と
touch
か
on
が、そういうまさに
different
ミラクル
topics.
が
Maybe there
生ま
would
れてる
be
かもしれない
different
っていう。
miracles.
だからそういう意味では、まあもちろんこれからコロナの期間で得たこうバーチャルの良さもそれは生かしつつも、なんかリアルって
So
こうい
also
う、なんていうんだろう、
knowing
こんな
the
奇跡が起きる、
good
人と
parts
人が
of
出会う、
online
ちょっと
events,
話したことで、みたいな、
I
そうい
want
う
to
なん
treasure
か
the
もの
little
をなんかあえてすご
miracles
くこう強く意識するようになったなっていうふうに思うんで、なんか
of
いい名前ですね。
meeting people in
ありがとうござい
person.
ます
So I think it's a
でも
great
まさに
company
なんか
name.
その、まあ、バーチャルって
Thank
まあ、ある意
you.
味この
I
オンライ
really
ンっていうのは
feel
限られた
like
時間の
with
中で、
virtual
ま
or
あなんかこ
online
う、
meetings
まあ、合理
and
的に話
events,
せるんですけど、
we
ま
meet
あ、リアルって
in
本
such
当
a
にそ
limited
こに例え
time
ば
that
リア
we
ルの場
tend
に向
to
かうまで
spend
それ
time
ぞれのストーリー
efficiently.
が決まる。
But with real
その偶
events,
発
we
的に
get
起き
to
る各々の体
experience
験っていう
random
のが
experiences
その
or
道中である
chance
だけで、結
encounters.
果ではなく
And I
てプ
feel
ロセ
like
スに
it's really
こ
the
そ人気がある。
process
でその中
that
で
counts,
まさに
not
そ
the
のセレン
results.
ディピティのような
And we
自分で
come
も思ってなか
across
った
these
奇跡
wonderful
的な出会いみたいなもの
serendipities,
が生まれていっ
and you
て
get
自分
to
なりのストーリーが
encounter
できるってい
the
うところにやっぱり
unexpected.
そのリアルの良さ
And
そして
that's
そこ
where
だ
I
けでも
see the
体験を
beauty
味わうんじゃな
of
くて
real life
行く道
events.
中もしくは行った先に自分でも想像しなかった体験に出会うっていうのはやっぱここはちょっとオンラインとはまた違う
そうですね。
かなっていうふうに今なんか僕逆にお話を聞いて思いました。
うん。
That's what I
次は
thought
また
after
ぜひ
hearing
リ
your
アルのイベント
message.
でもね、お会いしたいです
So I
ね。
hope we can see
そう
each
です
other
ね、
in
本当に。
person soon.
また
Yes,
ちょっと
definitely.
食べに来てください、福岡に。
Please
ぜ
enjoy
ひ大好き
Fukuoka's gourmet.
Yes, I love
はい
Fukuoka.
Please give a message to Mr. Kohashi and give your closing words.
まあ、今日ありがとうございました。
Thank you so much
小
for
林さ
this
んとも本当に
opportunity.
こう、いろんなステージを変えていきながら、
Mr. Kohashi,
これまでの経
you're
験
changing
と、
the
それ
game
か
in
ら
every
その
step you
一番
take.
今日やっぱ印象に残ったのは、日本に違和感を持つ
In
ように
today's
なった。
conversation, I think
やっぱりその、
your
違和
words
感に
about
敏感
being
であるっていう
sensitive
ことが、
about
すごくやっぱ
Japan's
り自分の考え方も
uncomfortableness
ビジネスもいろんなところにつながってるなっていうふうに思ったし、
was very
そ
helpful
の
to
当たり
know.
前に受けてるこのサービス、
All
理
these
解、
common
人間
services we
関
can
係、
get
もういろんなものをやっぱりこ
is
う今回の
changing
コロナ
during
で
this
そ
COVID
しては
times.
別の、なんていうか、これまで違うルーティンになって初めて、
So
違和感に気
experiencing
づけ
this
たりと
different
か、
routine,
違う場所に行って気づくこともあ
I
るし、
think
普段と違う人たちとお
it
話
could
をしてい
lead
たり
to
と
a
か
new
してて、
discovery.
なんか違和感に敏感になるっていうのは、
So
すご
being
くやっぱり、
sensitive and
新
aware
しい
of
発
this
見とか、次なるチャレンジって
uncomfortableness
いうところに
can lead to
気
new
づくきっ
challenges,
かけになるんだろうなってことを
new
すごく今日お
businesses,
話を
and
伺
new
いながら
services.
思いました。また、コロナが明けて、みんながこのコロナ中に感じてたい
So
ろんな違和
after
感って
this
いうの
hard
をまた
times,
新しいサービスにしたりして、
I
また
think
グ
we
ローバ
can
ルにチャレン
learn
ジ
from
してい
this
ただける
experience, and I
そうい
hope
う
we
サー
can
ビスが使え
provide
てくるといいな。
new
でも、
global
今日はありがとうございまし
services
た。
and businesses.
ようこそありがとう
So
ございま
thank you
した。
so much for this wonderful occasion.
Thank you for having me.
Mr. Kohashi,
ありがとうございま
Takashima
した。
Mayor, thank you for joining us today.